You know, people always ask me, Denzel, what's the secret? How did you make it? How did you stay on top for so long? And I tell them the truth. It wasn't luck. It wasn't just talent. It wasn't even motivation, because motivation fades. What kept me going was consistency. I forced myself to be consistent when I didn't feel like it. When I was tired, when I was discouraged, when I failed, I showed up. Day after day, year after year, I kept pushing, I kept grinding, I kept believing. Consistency is not easy, but it will separate you from the crowd. Anybody can get excited for a moment, but not everybody can stay faithful to the process. If you want to change your life, you've got to force yourself to be consistent. You see, a lot of people believe that motivation is what drives success. They think that if they could just stay motivated every day, they'd accomplish their dreams. But let me tell you something from my own life. Motivation is like the weather. It changes, it shifts, it comes, and it goes. Some days you wake up inspired, fired up, ready to take on the world. And other days you don't feel like getting out of bed. You don't feel like rehearsing. You don't feel like giving your best. If I had relied on motivation alone, I would have never made it. What carried me, what pushed me through, what shaped the man you see today was consistency. When I was starting out, I didn't have fame. I didn't have connections. I didn't have guarantees. What I had was a choice. Either I show up every single day, or I fall behind. And I forced myself to show up. When I was broke, I showed up. When I didn't get the part, I showed up. When critics doubted me, I showed up. I didn't wait to feel motivated. I made myself do the work whether I felt like it or not. Because consistency is greater than motivation. And I had to learn that the hard way. There were nights I went home after auditions feeling crushed, feeling like maybe I wasn't good enough. There were mornings I looked in the mirror and questioned whether this dream of mine was even possible. But I made a decision. My feelings wouldn't dictate my actions. I didn't need to feel like working. I just had to work. That's where growth happens. That's where success is born. In the daily grind, in the repetition, in the discipline of doing it again and again until it becomes second nature. I didn't become who I am today because of one big breakthrough moment. No, I became who I am because of countless small, consistent steps that nobody saw. People see the movies, the awards, the recognition. They don't see the hours of practice behind the scenes, the countless times I forced myself to keep going when no one was clapping, when no one was watching, when no one believed in me. That's the truth. Consistency will make you or break you. Even today, after all these years, I still live by that principle. I don't wait for inspiration to show up before I do the work. I do the work, and inspiration shows up along the way. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum is unstoppable. When you keep showing up, doors begin to open. When you keep showing up, your skills sharpen. When you keep showing up, life begins to respond to your persistence. But you have to stay the course. You have to force yourself to keep moving forward, even when every part of you wants to quit. The truth is, consistency is not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's not flashy. It's often boring, repetitive, unrecognized. But that's where champions are made. That's where leaders are forged. That's where dreams come alive. Because when you stay consistent long enough, you separate yourself from the rest. Most people quit when it gets tough. Most people stop when they lose motivation. But the ones who keep going, the ones who refuse to give up, the ones who force themselves to stay consistent, that's where greatness is found. I've learned that consistency is an act of faith. It's believing that what you do today, even if you don't see results right now, will pay off tomorrow. It's trusting the process when nothing seems to be happening. It's staying disciplined in the dark so you can shine in the light. And let me tell you something, it works. My whole life is proof that it works. So if you're listening to me right now, understand this. Don't rely on motivation to change your life. Motivation won't get you through the storm. Motivation won't carry you through rejection. Motivation won't hold you up when the nights get long and the pressure gets heavy. But consistency will. Consistency will keep you grounded. Consistency will build your strength. Consistency will take you further than you ever imagined. And when people look at your life, when they wonder how you did it, you'll be able to say the same thing I say now. I forced myself to be consistent. When I look back over my life and my career, I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty. It was the small, daily habits that carried me forward, not some giant leap all at once. People see the big moments, the awards, the speeches, the roles, but what they don't see are the hours and hours of showing up every single day, even when no one was watching. Consistency is what carried me, and I had to force myself into it because there were plenty of days when I didn't feel like doing the work. But I learned early that how you do the small things is how you'll do the big things. Every little choice, every little action adds up. And before you know it, those small habits have created a foundation that nothing can shake. When I was younger, I didn't know where this path would take me. I didn't know if the world would ever accept me as an actor. There were plenty of times I doubted myself, plenty of moments I wondered if this was all worth it. But I made a decision that no matter how I felt, I would show up. I would rehearse. I would practice. I would train my voice. I would learn my lines. I would study the greats who came before me. And every time I did those little things, even when they seemed insignificant, I was building something greater than I realized. The habits I forced myself to repeat became the building blocks of the man I became. You see, people want the big payoff. They want the success without the process. They want to be great, but don't want to be consistent in the small, unglamorous things. But the truth is, greatness doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from thousands of small, quiet ones. The late night studying, the early mornings preparing, the times you repeat something until you can't get it wrong. I can't tell you how many times I ran through a scene, how many times I practiced until the words felt like they were a part of me. Those moments never made the headlines, but they made me. And let me tell you, consistency isn't just about your work. It's about your character. It's about what kind of person you become when no one is watching. Every day you either strengthen or weaken yourself with the choices you make. I had to learn that if I wanted to reach my potential, I couldn't just wait for inspiration. I couldn't wait for the perfect conditions. I had to force myself into discipline. There were days when I was tired, days when the auditions didn't go well, days when I felt like giving up. But that's when consistency matters most. That's when showing up counts the most. It's easy to be faithful when everything's working out. But can you be faithful when nothing seems to be happening? That's the real test. And here's what I discovered. The small habits build your confidence. Every time I pushed myself to stick with it, even when I didn't feel like it, I grew stronger. I began to realize that success isn't about intensity. It's about persistence. It's not about how loud your passion burns in one moment. It's about how steady you can keep that fire day after day. That's what separates people. Everyone can be excited at beginning, but few people have the patience to keep watering the seed until it grows. I learned to water my seed every day with small, consistent actions, and one day that seed grew into opportunities I never imagined. So when I tell you that small daily habits create extraordinary results, I'm not just giving you a nice saying. I'm giving you my life. I am living proof of it. Because I wasn't the most talented, I wasn't the most connected, and I certainly wasn't guaranteed success. What I had was a decision to be consistent. And when I forced myself to be consistent in the little things, the big doors opened. I got better with every repetition. I grew stronger with every step. And I built a life that was shaped not by chance, but by choice. That's why I say to you today, don't underestimate the power of small habits. Don't ignore the little things, because those little things become the big things. Every day you show up, every time you push through when you don't feel like it, you're building a future that will reward you. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it is powerful. And if you can force yourself to stay consistent, even in the small things, you will create extraordinary results in your life. When I look back over my life, I can tell you one thing for certain. Dreams are not enough. Everybody's got a dream. Everybody has an idea of where they want to go, what they want to do, who they want to become. But those dreams will stay locked inside your head if you don't build a bridge to them. And that bridge, that foundation that carries you from vision to reality, is discipline. It's doing what you said you would do long after the excitement is gone. It's showing up on the days you don't want to. It's giving more when you feel like you have nothing left. That's what turned my dreams into my life. When I was a young man coming out of school, I had no guarantee that Hollywood was going to accept me. I had no promise that I would be a star, no guarantee that my name would ever be known. All I had was a dream. But let me tell you something. Dreams don't get you out of bed in the morning when you're exhausted. Discipline does. Dreams don't carry you through rejection after rejection. Discipline does. Dreams don't force you to memorize page after page of script, to dig deep into a character, to push through the late nights, to wake up early again and do it all over. Discipline does. I remember times when I auditioned and didn't get the part. I walked out of those rooms feeling like maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't belong. And in those moments, it would have been easy to let go of the dream. But discipline doesn't listen to doubt. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Discipline says, get up, keep going again. And so I kept showing up. I kept training. I kept reading. I kept sharpening my skills, because I knew if I didn't discipline myself, the world wasn't going to hand me anything. See, we live in a time where people want things fast. They want the success without the struggle, the applause without the practice. But I learned early that the only way to cross from where you are to be is by walking across that bridge of discipline. And let me tell you something, it's not an easy bridge. It's a fill, and sometimes it feels like it's falling apart beneath you. But if you stay on it, if you keep moving forward, that bridge will hold. Discipline is what taught me patience. It taught me to respect the process. It reminded me that while others might be more talented, more connected, or more favored, I could outlast them if I disciplined myself to keep going. Talent can open a door, but discipline will keep you in the room. Because when the lights fade, when the applause stops, and when nobody's watching, it's discipline that keeps you working, preparing, and pushing. I've had days on set when I didn't feel like giving my best. I've had days when the pressure was heavy, when life outside the cameras was hard, when distractions tried to pull me away. But consistency and discipline kept me steady. I reminded myself that somebody out there was watching, somebody needed the best of me, and I couldn't let my feelings dictate my future. I forced myself to be consistent in the discipline of my craft. And the truth is, discipline doesn't just change your career, it changes who you are. Every time you conquer yourself, Every time you push past comfort, you grow stronger inside. You become a person of integrity, of resilience, of character. That's what discipline did for me. It didn't just make me an actor. It made me a man who could withstand pressure, who could take responsibility, who could handle success when it came. So, if you're listening to me right now, I want you to understand this: dreaming is the easy part. Anybody can dream. But if you want to see those dreams turn into reality, you've got to force yourself into discipline. Set your alarm earlier, practice longer, stay focused when distractions come, and refuse to give up when life pushes back. Discipline is the price, and it's worth every sacrifice. Because at the end of the day, your dreams will test you. They'll ask you, how bad do you want it? And the only answer that proves you're serious is your discipline. That's the bridge I walked across. That's how I made it from where I was to where I am. And that's how you will too, by forcing yourself to be consistent, by disciplining yourself when it hurts, and by building that bridge every single day until your dream is no longer a dream, but your reality. When I look back at my life and my journey, I realize that the thing that gave me strength, the thing that carried me through the ups and downs, wasn't just the roles I played, the awards I won, or even the opportunities that came my way. It was something deeper. It was the decision I made early on to stay consistent. See, consistency is not just about what you do. It's about who you become. Every time I forced myself to keep going, every time I showed up when I didn't feel it, I wasn't just working on my craft. I was building my character. And character, once it's built, becomes the foundation for everything else. There were days when I didn't want to get up and rehearse. Days when I didn't feel like reading lines. Days when I questioned if this was even meant for me. And I'll be honest with you, I failed plenty of times. I got rejected. I got told, no, more times than I can count. But every time that happened, I had a choice. I could either give up or I could stay consistent. I could let the rejection define me, or I could keep pushing and let consistency redefine me. And over time, something powerful happened. The more I kept showing up, the stronger I became. The more I pushed through the resistance, the more confidence I gained. Consistency builds a certain kind of quiet strength. It doesn't happen overnight, and you don't always notice it in the moment. But it's like water shaping a rock, little by little, day by day. And you transformed not just your skill, but your spirit. For me, that confidence wasn't the loud, arrogant kind of confidence. It wasn't about thinking I was better than anyone else. It was about knowing that I had done the work, knowing that I had paid my dues, knowing that I could trust myself. Because when you keep promises to yourself, you develop a trust that nobody can take away from you. When I stepped on a stage or walked onto a set, I didn't have to pretend to be prepared. I was prepared. I didn't have to act confident. I had earned that confidence. That's the gift consistency gives you. It's not a gift you can buy. It's not something somebody hands you. You earn it through sweat, through sacrifice, through showing up even when no one is watching. And the beauty of it is, the world starts to see what you've been building in private. They call it talent. They call it skill. But really, it's the reflection of countless hours of consistency. And let me tell you, consistency doesn't just change your career. It changes you as a person. It makes you resilient. It makes you humble because you understand how much work it takes to achieve something worthwhile. It makes you grateful because you remember the days when nobody believed in you, but you kept going anyway. And it makes you stronger because you realize that failure is not final as long as you stay consistent. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it was easy. It wasn't. There were moments when I wanted to quit. There were times when doubt screamed louder than belief. But that's where character is built. That's where faith is tested. And that's where consistency became my weapon. I learned that if I could keep showing up on the hard days, the good days would eventually come. If I could keep my head down and do the work, the breakthrough would find me. And every time I forced myself to keep going, I built not just a career, but a confidence that carried me through every challenge life threw my way. So when I tell you to force yourself to be consistent, I'm not saying it as some motivational phrase. I'm telling you what I lived. I'm telling you what kept me standing when others sat down, what kept me moving when others stopped, what kept me believing when the world said it was impossible. Consistency built my character, and that character built my confidence. And if it can do it for me, it can do it for you. All you have to do is keep showing up, keep pushing, keep believing, and let consistency make you into the person you were meant to be. When I talk about consistency, I can't avoid talking about failure, because in my life, those two things have always walked side by side. People look at the success, the awards, the movies, the stages, and they think it was smooth. But I'll tell you the truth. It was rejection after rejection, door after door closing in my face. People telling me, "You're not good enough. You're not ready. We already have someone else for that role." And every single time, I had a choice. I could let that rejection break me, or I could use it as fuel. I didn't always feel strong in those moments, but I forced myself to keep moving, to keep working, to keep believing, because I knew that consistency through failure was the only way forward. I remember the times when I would go into auditions with all the energy in the world, and I'd walk out with nothing. I'd hear no. So many times that I started to wonder if the word yes even existed in Hollywood. And in those moments, it would have been easy to quit. It would have been easy to say, maybe this isn't for me. But something inside me said, stay the course. Something inside me whispered, hey, keep showing up, Denzel. And that's exactly what I did. I showed up, not because it felt good, not because it was easy, but because deep down I knew success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most consistent. You see, failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a part of success. Every time I failed, every time I got knocked down, I was learning something I couldn't learn in a classroom. I was learning resilience. I was learning patience. I was learning how to trust the process, even when the process was painful. And the only reason I learned those lessons is because I kept going. I forced myself to stay consistent through the storm. And that consistency built a foundation inside me that no failure could destroy. I tell young people all the time, don't let rejection stop you. Don't let failure define you. What defines you is what you do after failure. Do you quit? Or do you get back up? Do you let the no close your mouth? Or do you speak louder the next time? I chose to speak louder. I chose to fight harder. I chose to show up again and again until the world had no choice but to notice me. And I promise you, if you choose the same, if you force yourself to remain consistent, even when it hurts, life will reward you in ways you can't even imagine. Consistency through failure is what gave me character. It gave me strength. It gave me the ability to face bigger challenges without fear. Because after you've been told no 100 times and you're still standing, you realize nobody can break you unless you let them. You realize that failure is just feedback, and consistency is how you answer back. I didn't become who I am by winning all the time. I became who I am by losing, by stumbling, by hearing rejection, and then choosing not to let those moments stop me. I became who I am by forcing myself to stay faithful to the grind, to the practice, to the discipline, even when I couldn't see the results. Some days I felt invisible. Some days I felt like I was running in place. But I stayed consistent, and that's what opened the doors. I want you to hear me when I say this. If you want success, don't pray for an easy path. Pray for the strength to stay consistent through the hard path. Don't ask for life to remove your failures. Ask for the wisdom to learn from them and the courage to keep going. Because when you remain consistent in the face of failure, you turn those failures into stepping stones. And eventually, those stones will build a staircase that takes you exactly where you were meant to go. So when you fail, and you will fail, don't stop. Don't get discouraged. Force yourself to be consistent. Keep moving, keep working, keep believing. Because one day, the very failure that tried you will become the testimony that inspires others. One day, the no will make your yes that much sweeter. And when that moment comes, you'll know it wasn't talent alone, it wasn't luck, it wasn't even timing. It was the fact that you forced yourself to stay consistent through failure. That's the difference. That's what makes the dream real.